There's true power in you allowing yourself to follow those intuitive hits, to follow the downloads.
They're there for a reason. Stop getting in your own way. I am the person that should be doing this, that I give value.
Everything comes into us for a reason.
Our job is to find that.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
A lot of times it comes from pain, turning pain into your purpose.
This is Behind the Boss Lady podcast with your host, Shelby St.clair. I'm taking you behind the scenes of soul-led entrepreneurship as I hold space for paradigm-shifting conversations with awakened boss ladies. You're going to hear from women who share the good, the bad, and the ugly of what their journey to success looked like, leaving you with the advice and inspiration you need so that you never give the fuck up on your dreams. Your soul led you here for a reason. Join me every Wednesday as we dive deep into what it means to be an awakened boss lady in your life and business.
Terry, I am so excited for you to be here, for you to be talking to all of the listeners and to just share your magic and your gifts, because I got to experience it myself. So I know how powerful this work that you are doing is. And so I'm going to first, before we even get into the topic of what it is, I'm going to just let you share who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Shelby. I'm very excited to be here. Anytime I get the opportunity to sit down and chat about breathwork, it just really is a beautiful thing. And I'm Terry Moseley, and I'm the creator and founder of Bionic Breathwork. Bionic Breathwork is a method of breathing where we use conscious, connected, circular breathing to access non-ordinary states of consciousness, where we can heal past trauma, we can relieve stress and anxiety, we can tap into our intuition, we can heal chronic pain. There's so many benefits of this. And my goal with creating Bionic Breathwork was to make this kind of demystify the practice and make it easy, accessible, and effective for everybody. Our mission statement is to join the global revolution where we stop looking at people as patients and profit centers and start giving them the tools and the education to heal themselves so they can go on and lead more happy, healthy lives and be better partners, better parents, better bosses, better employees, and just live life with joy.
Wow, I love that. That mission statement alone is so powerful of just what you are looking to create and bring into the world in such a just really unique way. So what led you to this work? Like, how did you find it? How did you get started? Because it's something that I think we hear about a lot more, but then it's something that maybe people don't necessarily understand.
Yeah, that's true. And it's starting to have its moment, which is beautiful. I mean, breathwork has been around for centuries. I certainly did not invent it. And it's been around in a lot of other cultures. In the Western world, it's just starting to have its moment. And how I got into it is I've always been kind of on the fringe of straddling both sides of the brain and really into science and biohacking and also into the more spiritual and woo-woo side of things. So I was surprised that I got to a point in my life where I'd been hearing about breath work, but had never really done it. And something popped up on my Instagram, and it was just an ad for a breathwork class. And this was about 7 months ago. And again, I'd been in this world of yoga and meditation and sound bath and everything, but yet I'd never done a breathwork class. So it popped up, and something about it made me want to go. I tried to get my friends to go. It was in Marina Del Rey, and I live in Hermosa Beach, which is not too far for those of you that aren't from California. But couldn't get any of my friends to go. I could have been asking them to go to the moon, going to Marina Del Rey. So I went by myself. I walked in and I really had zero expectations. I didn't know what it was. I knew that breathing was powerful, but I had no idea what I was in for. The room had about 170 people in it, and we laid down and we just started breathing. And at that moment, it came to me really that I needed to be getting this out into the world. It was so powerful. And I was really kind of surprised that not more people have learned about breath work and that I hadn't been exposed to it. So from that moment on, I really just went in, I got trained, within 30 days of that class, I was trained and I started teaching the day after that. So I think it was some, divine, how do you say it? Like divine action or inspired action.
Yeah.
So I got the download and then I took it seriously and I started taking action from there.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that, we all are walking a path and we all have that greater purpose within us. And it really is in that moment, if we choose or decide to follow that innate feeling, to dive deeper, to check something out that sparks our interest, because you could have very well have seen that event or seen that ad and none of your friends wanted to go with you, and you could have just said, okay, well, I'm just not going to do it then. Nobody wants to go. I don't want to go do this thing by myself. But instead, it was just following that kind of intuitive knowing to just check it out and like, look where you are now in just 7 months for that calling to come in, and then to have been able to just fully embody it and step into this place. Did you experience any moments of doubt or any like limiting beliefs come up for you that were kind of maybe brought around fears?
Sure. And I think it's either love or fear. And it's everything that drives us is either driven by love or fear. So absolutely. I mean, walking into that room, I had a lot of fear. I think a lot of participants that come to my class do have that because we're not sure what's going to come up for us in those moments. So you have to be open and you have to be vulnerable and you have to allow the breath to really do the work. So when I first laid down there, I really didn't know what was going to happen. And once I first started doing the breathing, I started getting these sensations in my body, vibrations in the body, and I can feel it start working. And I did hold back a little bit because I'm in a room full of strangers. But what the beautiful thing is this style of breath work allows your frontal cortex to really just shut off. And that's where the ego is. That's where we are held back. And once that shuts off, it opens up these non-ordinary states of consciousness where you're not in your head anymore and you're not driven by fear or what anybody else thinks. So about 10 minutes into the class, that happened for me. And there were a lot of people releasing around me and there were people crying and screaming and I just felt like laughing. And at first I was like, I shouldn't be laughing. It was almost like when you're in church or at a funeral and you're not supposed to be laughing. And I allowed the laughter to start coming out. And then I couldn't stop. It was for an hour of just the most ecstatic, joyful feeling. And at the end of the class, I got this download. And like you said, you could go two ways with that. I could have let my limiting beliefs get in the way at that point and say, why me? Who am I to be going and teaching people this method? Why not somebody else? I'm not a guru. I'm not a healer. I'm not a shaman. So I didn't let that stand in my way. And I think that's the important thing. A lot of us, we're talking to our friends or say, I really like, setting up parties. And then you get all this inspiration. I'm going to create a business around that. But what starts happening is limiting beliefs do start creeping in. And as excited as you are, those start kind of taking away from it. So a lot of people aren't living up to their full potential because of limiting beliefs.
Yeah, they just come in, take over, and consume you because we're not naturally taught how to overcome them and how to choose the thing that actually feels good. We rather just do what feels comfortable and like stay in that limiting belief, stay in that hard point where you just question yourself and doubt yourself and ask that question, who am I? Who am I to do this work?
Yeah.
And I love that you had, what was that?
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I was just going to say that, like, I love that you brought up how you experienced that kind of ego state that came up when you went to your first class, because I had done a lot of breath work virtually, right? On my own, in my own space, nothing to like the extent of what you teach and how you teach it. It was just what I had experienced was just very mellow and calm and just kind of grounding and centering, not just like this deep transformational breath work that you provide. And when I went into your class, there was definitely this part of me that was like, I'm terrified of what's going to come up for me right now. I have no idea what I'm about to experience, what I'm about to feel. And I'm in a whole room of strangers, right? And I think that you do such a good job and make it feel so safe and secure in the space to just allow yourself to feel and to allow whatever needs and is meant to come out to come out. But that doesn't mean that those thoughts and those fears and those things just washed away immediately. But I felt that transition from when I was in my head thinking like, I can't get to that point where I'm here crying and people are going to hear me and then they're going to know because all the people around me are going to know that it's me. And then we're going to sit up after this breath work and they're going to be like, damn, what were you going through? But there was this moment where I entered that state where it's like shut off and that was no longer there. And it allowed me to access the feelings and the parts and the trauma and the moments that just needed to feel seen and heard and also given the space to be forgiven.
Yes. Yeah. And not non-judgmental. Like I always
Mhm.
tell the participants, like, do not judge what's coming up for you. And I think that's really important. And I think that the breath really does the work because once that frontal cortex is shut down, then you're not in control and you're not judging yourself or any of these emotions that are coming up. So I think that's really important to let people know. There is a lot of fear when you're seeing things on the internet and it almost looks like exorcisms are happening in these breathwork classes. And I think that's a little bit of a disservice because that's going to be appealing to a certain population of people. There's a lot of people that aren't going to be comfortable with that. So again, bionic breathwork is trying to make this accessible and easy and effective for everybody. And I think the biggest benefit of breathwork and bionic breathwork is that we are able to go somatically. So trauma is stored in our body and trauma can mean a lot of things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be these big T traumas that we talk about, sexual or physical abuse, or it can be something small. It can be something that somebody said to us in the 7th grade that stuck. And then, it's how we process what happens to us more than the event itself. So I really love that this style of breath work gets into the body and we really can loosen up and move that around. And it's been proven that trauma has been handed down to us epigenetically. So there is trauma that lives on our DNA that's been proven that's not even ours, it's our ancestral trauma. And we're really doing a disservice to the next generation if we don't deal with it now. Most Americans are in this imbalanced state between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So this style of breath work that I teach gets us intentionally into our sympathetic nervous system and turns that frontal cortex off. There's other styles of breath work that focus on deregulating or getting us into our parasympathetic nervous system. So I think they're both very helpful and go hand in hand. I think that the benefit of getting into your sympathetic nervous system is really just moving this around. It's also been proven that since breathing is an automatic function, anytime you take an automatic function like breath and you control it, you control your autonomic nervous system, you're actually, it's creating neuroplasticity. So you are rearranging events in your brain. That's how powerful something, just your breath is. And I really think that needs to get out there more than anything. Some people need pharmaceuticals. Most people don't need pharmaceuticals, SSRIs. These are just covering up issues and not allowing us to really heal at the root cause of the issue. So breath work allows us to get in there and really do some real healing. And it's been proven. We have neurofeedback, we have biofeedback, we have science. It's proven that this is not just some woo-woo stuff now. It really works.
Yeah, it does. I love that you brought up the generational, like the lineage, all of that is in every part of our cell in our DNA. It's just the genetics. There's 9 generations back within each of us. And we don't know what happened 9 generations ago. Typically, we have no idea because nobody's alive in our family from 9 generations ago. So we don't know the life that our great, 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 great grandma lived. And yet we are here walking and being and doing things from a certain place that we don't even understand. We don't know
True.
why it's there. We have moments that, people talk about the triggers, things happen and it triggers you into a certain state or mindset, or you start behaving a certain way and you don't necessarily know why. And it's because all of this is already built within us. So there's so much power in being able to move that, shift that. I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't believe that we can kind of change and heal ourselves on a cellular level. But like you said, science is proving that we truly can. We can do that work. And we operate 96% of our thoughts, our mind, our being from our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is just trying to keep us safe and protect us from all of these experiences and occurrences that are trapped within this part of ourselves, our nervous system, that says, hey, if you do that, you don't know what's on the other side of it. And it's scary and it's terrifying because we've experienced this emotion before and we don't want to go there. So when you allow just this healing work to come in, and there's so many modalities, but breath work is such a beautiful thing because you're literally doing it in a way with something that you do every day. We wake up and we're breathing every day, but you're allowing yourself this moment to just lay on the mat and be with yourself and do something that you normally do each and every day to keep you alive, but you're actually allowing the breath to guide you and carry you and lead you to this new space. And like you said, you're recreating these neural pathways, right? You're literally in parts of it healing kind of some of these neural pathways that might be damaged, right?
Yes, absolutely. I like to say you have to feel it to heal it, because
Mm,
our default mode, if something that's coming up and it's uncomfortable, we don't want to feel it. We just want to push it back down. We want to numb it
yes.
out. We want to, make it go away. Problem is, it doesn't go away. Your brain can forget stuff, but your body won't. There's a great
Yeah.
book called The Body Keeps the Score, and we'll
Yeah.
put that in the show notes. But your body does remember trauma. And until you deal with it, it will carry it around with you. And it ends up being like a parasite. And it can create, chronic pain. It can
Mhm.
create stress.
Disease.
Yeah, disease. And so I feel like, when there is somebody that walks around where something happens to them and the response to what happens to them, the trigger, is not correlated to the level of the, let's say, the assault. I don't know really how to say it, but say somebody cuts you off in a
Mhm.
car, your response to them cutting you off is just you blow up and you get road rage and stuff. That is an overactive sympathetic nervous system. Normally you'll get a trigger and your stress hormones, your cortisol, your adrenaline will spike for a moment, and then after that car moves on, your parasympathetic nervous goes back into rest and digest. A lot of people are in this heightened state of the sympathetic nervous system, and it's exhausting. It's such a drain on the body. And that's where breath work can really come in handy. And we can start balancing that out and getting rid of these triggers, and really allowing that balance to come into play where you're not feeling like you're always in this heightened state of being on guard. Fight, I'm going to fight, or I'm going to flee, or I'm going to freeze. It's
Yes.
not normal. And they actually did studies with ancestors of Holocaust victims, or people that have gone through famine. And they've shown that people ancestrally, many, many generations after, still have this fear of,
Mhm.
events, or food scarcity. And
Mhm.
that's something that we in the modern world, or these people in the modern world, had ever, had happen to themselves, but they're still feeling the effects of that. And breath
Yeah.
work is a way that we can really heal it. And we're not just covering it up. We're not just pushing it down. I think breath work's really also powerful for people who have, other addictions, and maybe
Mhm.
it's addictions, overworking, sex addictions, drugs, alcohol. Usually those are stemming from trying to cover something up that you're not wanting
Yeah.
to feel.
Yeah. All of the numbing that we are just from society so used to doing.
Yeah.
Like you said, just shoving it down, right? I talk to so many of my clients when they come to me and we're starting to talk about all of this trauma work and all of this healing and where this trauma is and where it resides within the body, is that they don't even recognize or know about this connection to trauma and it being stored in the body. Because as much as we see and hear trauma being talked about now, and as much as healing is being highlighted, there's still this part of it that there isn't too much talk about how it truly is affecting the body as a whole. And so, there's a lot of people who say, well, I've been in therapy for 10 years and like I just still feel the same and nothing's changing and I just can't figure it out and what's going on. It's like there's this part of us that logically needs to talk through things and understand, but it's so much deeper than that because of all of this that we've experienced and dealt with in our past lives, our generations past. It's all within us. And so if we're not doing that body work to move it up, to move it out, to give that place for us to recognize it, see it, honor it, forgive it, and release it, it doesn't matter how much we talk about it and try to tell ourselves we understand it, right? It's still going to show up in our body. And it's interesting as I'm working with clients, and I'm sure you see when people are on the mat too, as they're kind of going through the breathing where like different movements or things kind of come up and you're like, oh, okay, like this is where some energy is stuck and this is what they're trying to breathe out and move through. And you can literally see the energy that's just stuck and creating this stress within the body. And that release like truly allows you to step into a next level of yourself because you're finally connecting that mental understanding to the body. And so your body's like, yeah, okay, I don't have to weigh this person down anymore. You're finally just allowing it to be whatever it needs to be without it holding this power over you.
That's so true. And what you were saying about the talk therapy is I'm a big proponent of talk therapy, but if you don't know what you need to talk about, how is it going to help? So I have a lot of clients that come in that have been in therapy all their lives, and there's still that thing that they're not feeling like they're making improvements. So we get them to breathe. And sometimes if people are asked, like, will a traumatic experience that I had come back and will it be scary for me? The way it presents itself in breath work is in a different way. It's not a scary way for most people, and it's not very specific way. A lot of times you don't even know what's happening. So it's not like, oh, that bad man did this to me when I was 4. It's not usually as specific as a download of all of that coming back in, but it's just working through that experience that we're holding as trauma and then working it out and not being scared anymore and not having that trigger. So I think if you work with your talk therapist in conjunction with breath work after you get out of a session, then that's where the real healing begins. And like you said, when I'm seeing people on the mat, it's really interesting. I can tell a lot by the way somebody's just laying there on the mat before we even begin. I can tell if somebody's experienced physical or their sexual trauma just by the way they're holding their body. Are they covering themselves up? I can tell who's a control freak, that's really trying to hold themselves up when they're laying on Mother Earth and all they need to do is release. And it's really telling. You can tell what people go through. If you look at a newborn baby and the way they sleep, and their arms are here and their legs are here, they're on their back, and they're breathing deeply into their belly, and they're not holding anything in, and they're allowing Mother Earth to just support them. They don't have the weight of the world and the experiences of life that weighing them down and changing their posture. And so I like to see at the end of a breathwork class, I like to see how people have changed from the beginning and how they're holding on to things till at the end where we're really coming out of it and getting back into the parasympathetic, and see if they've loosened up, see if their defensive posture has changed at all within that course.
Yeah, that's I love that you kind of correlated that with the newborn baby, because when you have a newborn baby or you see a baby sleeping like that, you're like, man, they look so comfortable and relaxed.
Yeah, so
Why can't I be like that?
Yes, so peaceful. And you
Yeah.
can watch their breathing. They're breathing
Mm-hmm.
the way that we're meant to be breathing as humans. They're breathing by filling their belly up and expanding their belly. Whereas now, we're so into holding our stomachs in and being
Yeah.
six pack and really this contained type of breathing. So this 3-part breath work is really challenging for people because it's not easy. It's almost like, a sport. And I think when we're first getting into it, people are like, this is tough. We have to sit here and do this for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But after you get into it, it's almost like, taking a run. The beginning is the harder part, and then your body kind of takes over. And once you feel what's happening, then it becomes easier and easier.
Yeah. And I remember at the beginning of the class that I did with you, you were talking, you were saying, as you're going through this breath, you might get to the point where you have like crab hands. And that happened to me. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? This feels so uncomfortable. So why is it? Because you said it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to some people. So why is it that like that happens and we get into that kind of like locked position where our hands are just crab mode?
Yeah, so that is scary for a lot of people. So I really do want to make sure I bring it up at the beginning of every class. It's called tetany. And the scientific reason why it happens to people is when we're doing this conscious, connected circular breathing, our blood alkaline is changing. So our blood is becoming highly oxygenated and we're offloading CO2 at a rapid basis. So a lot of times scientifically, they're saying what's happening is you don't have enough CO2 in your body and it's creating this cramping. So a lot of breathwork instructors also like to say it means that you're holding on to something too tight. So some people will cue, think about what you're holding on to. And then it's just a way of bringing your attention to that. And that will also loosen your hands. This also can be a mineral deficiency. So I always recommend people before they're coming to breathwork class to try, and even just on a regular basis, every day, you should try to drink 8 ounces of mineral water from a glass bottle. Help your minerals come up. And so it could be any of those things. I like every explanation. I like the scientific explanation. I also like the explanation that you might be holding on to something, because if somebody has that in their mind when they're starting to cramp like that, it kind of brings into focus, like, is there something I need to let go? Am I holding on to something that I haven't forgiven, or et cetera? I'm kind of a psycho, or when that happens to me, I'm like, oh, it's working. Like the more tingly and the more cramped I get, it's working. If it becomes too uncomfortable, then I tell the clients, just start breathing through your nose and you'll come back to homeostasis and you'll get a release of that.
Yeah, thanks for giving that just kind of full circle explanation of what it could be. Because when I was in it, I was like, okay, like I had that thought of like, okay, it's working. Like we're getting there. It's happening. And because I was so connected and like I was talking to my husband who passed away and just like him finally giving me, it was like the closure that I had been seeking for 3 years of just that conversation, that understanding, that depth. And like that's what came through to me and just allowed me to fully just finally feel and forgive, because there was so much of me that was just holding on to anger and resentment. Like, how dare you choose to leave me while I was pregnant and to have to figure all of this out alone? Like, this wasn't the plan. But ultimately, it was the plan. It's how it was all meant to be. It was what it was supposed to happen. And as sad and hard and unfortunate it was, and how painful and hurtful, like allowing myself to go there and feel it all truly allowed that part to heal.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting tears in my eyes right now just because I know your story. And something that you just said just really resonated. Like, when we're in it, when we're in the weeds, we can't see that life is happening for us and not to us. And as many times as people tell you that, you just really can't see it. And I think that this is the great equalizer when you allow yourself in these, non-sleep deep rest, and you really get out of your head and you get out of the anger, and you get into this, subconscious world, these non-oriented psychology. You can really see things more clearly there, and you can really feel this huge sense of forgiveness. There's an exercise that I do at the beginning of smaller classes that I just can't do at the larger classes, that deals with forgiveness and what it really feels in that moment to let it go, not for the other person, but for you. And, for you to have experienced that in our session, just brings me a lot of joy, because that's what it really is all about. A lot of people have told me that they have had people that have moved on and passed to the others come visit them during breath work. And it's a really peaceful, joyful visit. And I think that allowing yourself to get that without any special tools, like I know you have a lot of gifts when it comes to spirituality, and but this can happen for people that are just everyday people that don't even believe in this stuff. Just allow yourself to come in and give it a try and let the breath do the work.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful experience if you just allow yourself in and step out of that fear, follow that fear, and just see
Yeah.
where it leads you. Because you never know. I mean, you could be like Terry here now, 7 months later, doing a work that you are being called to do, be in a place that you are meant to be in. And I want to kind of transition this conversation because you have in the past 7 months, like literally taking this work as your purpose and as your like guiding light. And it's now taking you all over the world.
Yeah.
So what was that like and how the heck did it happen? Because I think that for so many people, that's like a dream, that's a desire. Like I would love to share my work in such expansive ways. And so how did it happen for you?
I think it was the initial download that I got, and it was that I need to be doing this at a global level. And then again, inspired action. And it's kind of like, it seemed like an overnight success, but really I've been gearing towards this all my life without even knowing about it.
Yep.
So, I started as an actress, and then I was a yoga instructor, and then I was a life coach and an NLP practitioner. And all of those things and all those initials and certifications after my name still wasn't giving me my purpose. And it was great at those moments in my life. But I feel like now this is the accumulation of everything that I've gone through has given me this purpose. It really is. I really do feel like this is my purpose in life. And when you're in alignment with your purpose, then the world conspires with you. So one thing just leads to the other, to the other. So what I like to tell people is, if you are feeling like you're in alignment, then you just need to do the littlest things every day. And one thing leads to another. And one of those things was coming to one of your brunches and just getting this word out and meeting women through that. And then now being invited on this podcast so we can continue to get the word out. And I think that is just really powerful. So I'd like to tell everybody, do the work and listen to your intuition and listen to the downloads. They're there for a reason. Stop getting in your own way. Breathwork is really good for shedding limiting beliefs as well. I had a ton of limiting beliefs. I think all of us do. And I don't let those get in my way. Every time they start getting my way, I do another session of breathwork, and I'm reminded that I am the person that should be doing this, that I give value. We all have something that makes us special and makes us valuable. And a lot of times it comes from pain, turning pain into your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
more often than not. So if you're going through something right now and you're learning something from it that's going to be helpful for the next person that's going through, that's called purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that, yeah. And, I know you know that better than anybody. We all, but the message to everybody is, we all are all special. We are all put here for a purpose. And our job is to find that. I'm finding mine a little bit later in life. Now my kids are in college, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to find theirs. We'll find it when it's meant to be, and we will have all of the tools that we need at that time to be able to share that purpose with the world. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I could not agree more. There's true power in you allowing yourself to follow those intuitive hits, to follow the downloads rather than stepping into that logical brain and trying to work it out and ask yourself, is this the right thing? Everything comes into us for a reason, right? Every desire lands in our heart. Every thought comes for a reason. There's purpose to everything. And I love that you said everything that you've done up until this point led you to where you are today, to now be able to be creating this global impact and to be doing this work in this bigger way, because truly that's how our lives are built. Everything is already pre-planned and laid out for us. And sure, there's different paths and there's different things that happen. But ultimately, there's this thing that we're meant to come to, this place that we're meant to rest, and this thing that we're meant to do within our lives. And we just have to follow those intuitive hits, those downloads, and allow it to lead us, because alignment feels really good.
It does.
It feels really good. And it truly is just the small little things. It's like, okay, I just have to do this one little thing today, and it's going to get me 10 steps further to what I want to do, rather than sitting in this space where you are just overthinking nonstop and you're just, it's like turning the gears and grinding the gears, and you're just getting so down on yourself, or you're almost to the point of just self-sabotaging because you aren't just trusting. You aren't allowing that belief system to be shifted and that alignment to come in, and like everything to just play out as it's meant to play out. You're trying to control the end result, right? Because we all step into business and we're like, okay, I want a successful business and I want X, Y, and Z. And so I'm going to do everything that I have to do to make it happen. And you're doing a million and one things. And it's like, why isn't it working? Because you don't need to do a million and one things. You got to tap in, tune in, trust, believe, follow the guidance, and just watch it unfold. Like it's just this beautiful rose waiting to open in front of you.
100%. And don't be afraid to pivot.
Mm.
If you're not going, walking in that path of alignment, then things can seem really hard. And that may be, I like to say, fail fast. So don't be afraid to fail. But if things aren't falling into place, then don't be afraid to pivot either. And, maybe my life coaching thing, that wasn't feeling in alignment with me. And so therefore it wasn't flowing. So, but that led to this, that led to that. So I think that don't be so stuck. If you're in a business and you're feeling like it's not flowing and it's not bringing you joy and it's not bringing you passion, then don't be afraid to take a right turn or a left turn and see really what does. You're on a path, but that doesn't mean that your path has to be straight ahead. And I feel like a lot of women decide what their business is going to be and then just struggle with it and never really enjoying the journey. And I really feel like that's a download as well. Make a turn, when you are on the right path, you are going to be flowing like a river, and one thing is going to go to the other, and you're going to have all of these divine coincidences come into play. So if it feels too hard, there's a reason for that, and you need to make adjustments, and you need to not hold on. So maybe the technique, do not hold on so tight to what you think you want, because it may not be what your real purpose is.
Yeah. Push past that fear. I think for a lot of women, right, this is where their trauma starts to show up in business, and where it comes in and it plays such a big impact, because there's this thought that, okay, I started this thing and this is what I wanted to do. And if I change it, or if I do something different, people are going to look at me as though I am a failure and I couldn't do it. And now I'm going to be judged, and people are going to be talking about me, and my family was already unsupportive and now I'm giving them reason, right? You have all of these thoughts and these things, but man, if you just go ahead and you take that as a sign, as there is something more, what I always tell my clients is to hold on to the saying and the belief that if not this, something there. There is a reason. There is a reason that something isn't working out, isn't flowing, feels difficult, feels hard. And you just have to allow yourself to step into trust. And something that I have been really sitting with and being in is the state of surrender. When we surrender to allowing what is meant to be and what is not meant to be to flow in and to flow out, we are literally like opening our bubble of capacity to hold more, to call in more. And we're actually telling and conspiring with the universe to say, I'm ready for whatever is meant to be mine.
I think that's so true. And I think that breathwork is a really powerful tool that life coaches should be incorporating into their work, because if somebody is in functional freeze or they're operating with limiting beliefs, you can be the best life coach, and you can be Tony Robbins, you can be Dean Graziano, and you are not going to be able to help that person move the needle. They need to do the internal work first And then once they do the internal work and get rid of and shed those, then they're going to be able to get their business going. So I think you really do, as life coaches, mindset coaches, they really need to start looking more internally, not just what's going on up here, but what's going on in the body as well. That's really going to move the needle.
Yes. And that just like takes us perfectly into the excitement of like, this is actually what you are working on creating and doing to provide for other people as a way to bring breathwork into their business, right?
Yes. So I tell people that my goal really is to create my own competition, because there's not a lot of people out there. There are not a lot of breathwork facilitators. There are not enough people that are spreading this word, and we really need this to be spread globally. So I'm going to be doing a lot of teacher trainings, both online and in person. And my goal is to really just equip people like you, like life coaches, therapists, yoga instructors, and just everyday people, to give them the tool to facilitate. And anybody can be a facilitator. Like I said, they don't have to be a shaman. They don't have to be a healer, because the healing comes from within, from your participants, not necessarily you. But what you do have to have is a passion and a willingness to try to help people. And I think there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of people in the world that really were born to help others. And the more I can get them onto this breathwork kick, then the better the world's going to be.
Amen. Raise the vibrations, shift the frequency, allow people to heal on such a deep way so that we are all walking this earth empowered to just see each other for who we are, and to be able to just hold each other and help each other and guide each other without all of the fear and the judgment and the lack. So where can our listeners find you if they are looking for exactly what you do and are ready to step over this wall of fear?
Yeah, they can find me at bionicbreathwork.com, and then Instagram and Facebook, all Bionic Breathwork. So really easy to find me. And I'm going to be teaching throughout the world. So I'll come to a city near you, hopefully soon. And my online offerings will also be on my website.
Amazing. I am so grateful that you came on to just share this work, to share what led you here, and just the power and the impact that you're looking to create worldwide, because it's going to be such a beautiful journey, especially as you help lead people to becoming this, and so that they can carry on and just continue this everlasting flow of just deep inner healing, of release, allowing people to feel so that they can heal.
Yes.
Such a beautiful saying. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and taking the time to sit with me and allowing me to, explain what breathwork is all about. I hope it gets more people willing to come in on the mat, or just opens their mind to this modality.
Yes, we will cross our fingers, because Lord, we need it. It made such a difference in my life already, and it was only a month ago.
Right?
I can't wait to get back on the mat with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode on Behind the Boss Lady podcast. Be sure to follow me over on Instagram at the Shelby St.clair, and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a review or share with me what your biggest takeaway was. I can't wait to connect with you more, and I will see you next week.